The moment Rasheeda Frost stepped forward, all eyes turned to her. With one hand gently placed on her growing belly, the room seemed to pause. There was something special in her gaze, something filled with joy, hope, and a quiet strength. Her journey had not been easy, but in that moment, she stood victorious. When she finally spoke, her voice carried excitement that couldn't be hidden. She was expecting another child with Kirk Frost. But this wasn't just about announcing a pregnancy. It was much more than that. For Rasheeda, this was proof of her perseverance, her unwavering faith in love, and the deep connection she still shared with Kirk. Their relationship had been tested over and over again. They had faced betrayals, misunderstandings, and the weight of their complicated past. But through it all, they had chosen to move forward, to heal, and to rebuild their bond. With a glowing smile and eyes shimmering with emotion, Rasheeda looked at the flashing cameras and shared, "I'm happy to say that Kirk and I are expecting again."
But you haven't signed anything and he hasn't signed anything yet.
No.
Is that because you guys still trying to work it out? Or does it just make more sense for you guys to just be separated right now?
Well, the thing is, we've sat and had a conversation about trying to maybe not do it through attorneys and see if we can come to some type of agreement, that way. And at the same time, I also feel like, and it's not even the point of just trying to work it out, but I'm also like, I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I pretty much kind of got the information, and am I ready to serve him with these papers? This is the first time something like this has happened in our marriage, and I'm feeling like, okay, is the answer immediately, although it's all this crazy stuff that's happened, is the answer immediately divorce, step into this place, or is it let's try to figure out if we're going to just separate and try to work out percentages, things like to that nature. So that's kind of where it is right now, just maybe considering not having to do an actual divorce, but just at this moment, but just figuring out what we want to do and see if we want to go ahead and take it to the divorce line later, or that may not be the case. As of right now, who's to say? My main concern ain't even just the fact of filing the divorce. It's just about trying to, stay focused, not overstress myself, and get ready for this baby, whether he's a part of the situation or not.
Jasmine had once believed that Kirk would choose her. In her heart, she thought what they had was more than just a fleeting moment, a real connection, something that could last. She convinced herself that their bond was deeper, stronger, something that couldn't just be brushed aside. But over time, that dream slowly fell apart. The reality was far more painful than anything she had prepared herself for. Kirk and Rasheeda had been through their share of problems, but somehow they always found their way back to each other. Even when things seemed broken beyond repair, they managed to patch things up. Jasmine had watched from the sidelines, holding on to hope, believing that Kirk would eventually realize she was the right one for him. But that moment never came. And now, with Rasheeda's latest announcement, the truth was clearer than ever. Kirk had chosen his family. Jasmine's heart sank as she saw the news. The weight of everything she had tried to bury came crashing down. The past, the betrayal, the shattered hope. It was all too much. She had spent years hoping for something more with Kirk, only to be left behind. And now, here he was, standing beside Rasheeda, smiling for the cameras, celebrating the life they were building together. Alone in her apartment, Jasmine felt herself unraveling. She scrolled through her phone, her hands shaking as she read the flood of messages. Some were from friends offering sympathy, others from people taking sides, trying to stir up drama. None of it mattered. No amount of words could change what had already happened. Kirk had moved on. Rasheeda had won. Her mind replayed old conversations, Kirk's promises, his reassurances, the moments when she had allowed herself to believe in a future with him. But now, all of that felt like a distant dream, a fantasy that had never been real. She had poured so much of herself into him, only to realize in the end that it was never enough. The family she had longed for, the love she had desperately wanted, was now being shared with someone else. Tears blurred her vision as she curled up on the couch, her sobs breaking the silence of the room. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered to herself. "I was supposed to have a family. I was supposed to have the life I dreamed of." She thought back to all the moments she had spent waiting for Kirk to choose her, to see her as more than just a passing mistake. But now, she knew the truth. She had been nothing more than an afterthought. Someone he had entertained for a time but never truly committed to. Kirk's love had never been constant. It had always been shifting, unpredictable, like a pendulum swinging between two lives. And now, it had settled where it was always meant to, back with Rasheeda. But even as she cried, Jasmine knew, deep down, that this wasn't the end of her story. This was just another painful chapter, another wound she would have to learn to live with. She didn't know how long it would take to heal, but she understood one thing. No amount of love, no amount of waiting, was ever going to make Kirk choose her. That choice had already been made, and it was time she accepted it. Meanwhile, Rasheeda and Kirk were moving forward, embracing the future they had fought so hard for. Their love had been tested, their marriage pushed to the edge, but somehow they had found their way back. This baby wasn't just another child, it was a new beginning. A chance to rewrite the mistakes of the past and build something lasting. Rasheeda stood by Kirk's side, her heart full of hope. They had been through so much, but they had come out stronger. They had chosen each other time and time again, and now with their growing family, they felt like they had everything they needed. The contrast between the two women was stark, one filled with hope, the other drowning in heartbreak. For Rasheeda, this was a time of joy, a moment to celebrate all she had overcome. But for Jasmine, it was a painful reminder of everything she had lost. But time has a way of healing wounds, even the deepest ones. Rasheeda and Kirk's journey was just beginning, filled with promise and second chances. Jasmine, on the other hand, would have to find her own way forward. She would have to piece herself back together, learn to live without the dream she had held onto for so long, and eventually let go of the hurt that had weighed her down. For now, the world watched as Rasheeda and Kirk embraced their happiness, sharing their excitement with flashing cameras and eager reporters. But away from the public eye, in the quiet of her apartment, Jasmine sat in the middle of her pain, trying to figure out how to move forward. One day, she knew this chapter would close. One day, she would look back and see this not as the end, but as the moment she learned to let go. But for now, all she could do was sit in the silence and wait for the pain to fade.